How's it going, everyone? My name is Ed, and in this video I'm going to be installing this Azdome M550 3-channel dash camera inside of my 1995 Lexus SC300. When I'm done, I'm going to have a front-facing camera, a rear-facing camera, and an inside-facing camera. But first, if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for dropping by. I hope you like it. Subscribe if you like what you see. So after you take everything out of the box, here's basically what it all looks like. Let's start with the front-facing camera here. You'll notice that it's got a nice 3-inch screen on the back with a couple buttons on the bottom. You got your power button, OK button, some arrows to help get you around in the settings. You have an external mic here, which can't wait to test that to see how that sounds. You have a reset button in case you want to reset all the settings and go back to the factory settings. So I'm assuming you just take a paper clip and stick it in there. And on the outside, you have a slot here for your rear camera, and you have a slot here for your SD card. And on this side, you have a slot here for your inside camera. So this goes here, plugs in like so. Now this camera is important to know that it's a 4K camera, which is great if you're not going to be using the interior camera, okay? If you are going to be using the interior camera, this camera, the forward-facing camera, becomes a 2K camera. And that's opening is for this here, which is how your camera becomes mounted to the windshield. And once you flip the camera over, you have a slot here for your cigarette lighter, okay, to go into the charger here. So that's pretty much it as far as this camera. Let's talk about the rear camera here. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice is how thick this wire is, okay? Now, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing yet. I can tell you from experience, when I was installing the Viofo A139 3-channel dash camera, this wire was a lot thinner, and that made it so easy to run the wire and to put the interior panel pieces together. You literally could put the panel back in place and there was no issues with it closing because of how thin this wire was. This, on the other hand, is really thick, and I like to think that if I was using this camera in the Highlander, this would have given me some issues. Now, if I'm being a little picky, I'm also not a fan of this. It's got some small screws here, Phillips, to tighten this flap. So, yeah, I don't know what this is about, but I am most certainly interested in the functionality of this camera, right? For the price of $130, is this going to be as good or better than the Viofo, which is basically $100 more? I am actually really curious. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in and talk about how to install this inside of the car. All right, so in this car, I'm going to be replacing this single dash camera, which has been pretty good, very reliable, no issues so far. I'm going to be replacing this, basically upgrading it with the 3-channel dash camera. So as far as how to hardwire this camera in, it uses the same USB port to charge the device. So I don't really need to do anything hardwiring here. But if you guys want to know more about hardwiring, I'm going to include a link here for a video on how to hardwire any dash camera inside of any vehicle. Very straightforward. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and pull that camera out, and then we're going to talk about where to mount these cameras and basically the best locations and how it looks. All right, so I am just about done. And as I mentioned earlier, that cable for that rear camera is a little bit on the thick side. While I was trying to hide the cable in the back, this kind of snapped off on me. Here's the second piece right there, if you can see that. So just keep that in mind. In my case, I was still able to do it. Here, let me show you guys a quick view of what the back camera looks like, and then we'll work our way to the front here. So here's the rear camera, and you can see everything is neatly tucked away. This cable was so long, I had to basically wrap it around, going this way, come down, and then go around there, all the way around here, coming up, then it comes up this way, looks good, until eventually it gets to the front. Now in the front, there's a lot of thick cables here, but here's the camera, and everything looks good. Now, if I did everything correctly, when I give this thing power, the camera should turn on. So let's go ahead and see what happens. And we have power, so I guess this is the settings. I don't know if you can see this. So I'm gonna go ahead and play with these settings, and I'll jump back on once I have this all figured out. All right, so I spent about 5 minutes playing around with the camera. I was able to get the app downloaded to my phone, and then I was able to sync my phone to the actual dash cam. And I have to say I'm pretty impressed so far. So what I wanna do is I wanna go ahead and take this around the block and actually test the quality of the cameras to see how the rear camera looks, the front camera, and the interior camera. And I also wanna test the microphone and make sure everything looks good, and we'll go from there. All right, so I just got back from taking this thing out for a spin, and I went and I looked at the footage, and I have to be honest, this is probably not the best car for the audio part of this camera, simply because, for one, it's got coilovers, so the suspension is a little bit stiff, and two, the exhaust is a little bit on the loud side. I'm gonna let you guys have a quick listen, and then I'll jump back on. All right, let's go for a spin, shall we? Okay. So far, the dash cam is looking pretty good. Yeah, so as you can hear, the mic wasn't too happy about the exhaust, so there was a lot of distortion. But if your car is a little bit quieter or a lot quieter, this camera is probably going to be awesome for you, at least for the microphone part of it. So let's talk about the cameras. I think the cameras did a pretty good job. The front camera, the main camera, I do like where it sits. I thought the angle and the wide view was pretty clear, especially this time of the day where the sun was really bright. I thought I did a pretty good job of capturing all the cars in front of me, all the cars kind of next to me on the front left and front right. And overall, I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. One thing that I am not a fan of is the fact that the inside camera is attached to the front camera. And that's because when you adjust the front camera, you're also adjusting the rear camera. So if you angle the front camera a little bit up, the interior camera is going to be facing a little bit down. Same thing if you angle it down, the interior camera is going to be facing up. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now the rear camera, I thought did a pretty good job here as well for what it is. The quality, I couldn't really tell the difference between the front and the rear or the interior. Overall, they all look pretty good. I do know the front is the best quality out of the three, and the rear and the interior are basically the same. So if you're on a budget and you're thinking about getting a 3-channel dash camera, I would definitely consider getting this camera. The only negative thing I can think of is the rear camera, at least the cable in the rear is going to be on the thick side. So that can be an issue when you're trying to hide it, but I was able to hide it, no problems. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can think of. If you guys have any questions, comment below. If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. I'll include a link of the camera in the description below. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.